You've seen it a million times, right? In a tense crime drama or a high-stakes poker game on TV, someone sees a tiny twitch, a subtle glance, and they just know. The fantasy of being a human lie detector is so cool, but how much of that is just Hollywood and how much is actual science?
Okay, let's just get right into it, because this comment from Reddit user Lava Eater really cuts to the core of what we're all wondering, isn't it? Is reading body language a real, learnable skill, or is it all just a bunch of pseudoscientific nonsense? Well, in this explainer, we're gonna break it down.
So, first things first, to even begin to understand what's real, we have to bust the biggest myth out there. This idea that there's a single dead giveaway that tells you someone is lying.
It's known as the Pinocchio effect. You know, the idea that if someone touches their nose or looks in a certain direction, bam, they're lying. And here's the thing that's so important. Experts, we're talking former FBI agents, academic researchers, the people who study this for a living, they all agree on this one point. It does not exist. There is no single universal sign of deception, period.
And this is exactly where it all falls apart for most people. I mean, look at these behaviors. Someone might smile when you accuse them because they're nervous, or maybe they just think the accusation is totally ridiculous. Another person might look super stern because they're lying and they're trying way too hard to convince you. Shaking a leg, for one person, that's a sign of stress. For the person next to them, it's just what they do to chill out. It all depends on the person.
This comment from Reddit user 200-pound rock lobster just nails it perfectly. For them, smiling is just what happens when they feel cornered. But for everyone else, it looks like a gotcha moment. This is precisely why looking for one single tell is a recipe for disaster.
So, if there's no magical tell, then what in the world are the experts actually looking for? Well, it all starts with one single fundamental concept. And that concept is called the baseline. Just think of it as a person's unique normal. How do they act when they're totally relaxed, not under any pressure? How do they sit? How fast do they talk? That's their baseline. So an expert isn't looking for a lie. They're looking for a change, a deviation from that person's normal behavior.
And you know, another commenter on Reddit just summed it up beautifully. You have to know what someone's normal looks like before you can ever hope to spot something that's not normal. Without that baseline, you're really just guessing.
Okay, so we're looking for changes from a baseline. But why do those changes even happen? What's going on inside our heads? Well, this is where it gets really fascinating, down to the actual neuroscience of it all.
It turns out there's basically a battle happening inside your brain for control of your face. You've got one system, the cortical pathway, that handles all your voluntary posed expressions. You know, the smile you put on for a photo. But then you've got another system, the subcortical pathway, that's in charge of your spontaneous, real, involuntary emotion. So, imagine you're in a high-stakes situation and you're trying really, really hard to hide how you truly feel. Those two systems in your brain start to clash. Your voluntary system is trying to keep that poker face, but your involuntary system can actually leak your genuine emotion out. And it's that leakage that gives us the real clues.
Now, this leakage, this little battle in our brains, it actually creates two totally different kinds of facial expressions. And you have to know the difference between them.
On one side, you've got your macro expressions. These are the big, obvious ones we see all the time. They last a few seconds, and we're totally in control of them. But then, you have micro expressions. These are the flashes of emotion that leak out. They're involuntary, super subtle, and happen incredibly fast, less than half a second.
This chart really breaks it down for us. You can see the differences in timing and intensity. But look at that row for subjectivity. One is voluntary, you're in control. The other, the micro-expression, is totally involuntary. You literally can't stop it from happening. It's a true reflection of what you're feeling.
And just how fast are we talking? Get this. Some micro-expressions can flash across a person's face in as little as 65 thousandths of a second. That is, and I mean this literally, faster than you can blink. It takes serious training to even learn how to spot them. So let's piece this together. We've got the baseline, we've got these tiny split-second micro-expressions. What is the actual end goal here? If it's not about spotting a lying face, what are experts really trying to do?
And this might be the most important takeaway from this whole explainer. The goal is not lie detection. The real goal is to identify shifts between comfort and discomfort. When you see someone's behavior deviate from their baseline, it's a flag. It tells you their internal emotional state has changed. It's a sign of stress or anxiety or something, but it is not a guilty verdict.
So the actual process the pros use is surprisingly straightforward. It's really just 3 steps. First, you gotta establish that baseline. Second, you watch for clusters of behavior that deviate from it. And third, and this part is absolutely critical, you have to consider the context.
And context is, well, it's everything. For example, one of the sources gave this great little detail. In parts of Eastern Europe, it's normal to carry flowers pointed down. To an outsider, that might look weird, maybe even disrespectful, but it's just a cultural norm. Same with personal habits. Or maybe someone looked away not because they're lying, but because a car alarm went off outside. Without context, an observation is totally meaningless.
So that leads us back to the big question, doesn't it? If this isn't some kind of superpower for catching liars in the act, then honestly, what's the point of all this?
Because the point isn't about catching people out. It's about connecting with them. It's about becoming a better, more perceptive communicator. It's about building empathy, because you can get a little glimpse into what someone is actually feeling. It's about being aware of that whole other conversation that's always happening, right underneath the words.
So I'll leave you with this one last thought to chew on. If our faces can betray our deepest, most hidden feelings in a flash so quick we can barely even see it, then how much of our own story and the stories of everyone around us is being told every single day without a single word being spoken?